in the deepest chambers of the human spirit, where the echoes of eternity intertwine with the silent breaths of our fleeting existence, there lies a profound and almost sacred mystery, a profound chasm of silence that speaks louder than any divine revelation. This is where the soul of the chosen one embarks on an odyssey, not merely through time, but through the very essence of its own being. A journey through the void where the silence of God is not an absence, but an intentional, deliberate act of celestial pedagogy. The chosen one, with their heart pulsating in rhythm with the ancient, unfathomable heartbeat of the cosmos, finds themselves enveloped in an isolation so profound that it renders the absence of divine presence a palpable, almost tangible force. As the chosen one stands alone in the vastness of the night beneath a cathedral of stars that bear silent witness to the ages, the silence of God is not an emptiness, but a profound, omnipotent embrace. The chosen one feels it in the marrow of their bones, in the deepest fissures of their soul. This isolation is not a mere physical separation, but a spiritual disrobing, where every whisper of the wind, every rustle of leaves, and every flicker of starlight become charged with the weight of an eternal question. Why must you endure this silence? In the quiet stillness of this nocturnal epiphany, the chosen one beholds the divine tapestry unfurled before them, each thread woven with purpose, each hem stitched with an ancient, unvoiced wisdom. They sense the divine breath, a subtle, almost imperceptible whisper that vibrates through the very fabric of existence. It is a breath that is both the absence and the presence, the silence and the voice, the question and the answer. The chosen one understands that this silence is not a punishment, but a sacred test, a crucible in which their spirit is to be purified, their soul refined by the alchemical fires of isolation. As the chosen one's eyes trace the celestial dance, they feel the cosmic continuum that stretches beyond the horizon of time and space, connecting every being, every fragment of existence to the infinite. Within this infinite expanse, there lies a silent, profound truth, a truth that whispers to the chosen one of the eternal solitude of the divine, the solitude that makes the act of creation possible. The silence is an invitation to comprehend the unfathomable solitude that God must inhabit to create, to sustain, and to nurture the very essence of all things. The chosen one's heart swells with an overwhelming sense of unity and separateness, a paradox that is the very crux of existence. In this isolation, they encounter the deep, quiet well of their own spirit, where the waters are still yet teeming with the echoes of eternity. Here, in the silence, the chosen one discerns the divine rhythm, a rhythm that speaks of creation, of the infinite dance of being, and of the silent sovereign will that sustains it all. It is in this solitude that the chosen one feels the weight of the divine burden, the weight that comes with being the vessel of destiny. The silence becomes a sacred silent teacher, imparting wisdom through the very absence of words. The chosen one learns to listen with their soul, to hear the divine whispers that transcend the spoken word, to sense the eternal symphony that orchestrates the cosmos. The silence teaches humility, a humble recognition of their own insignificance against the infinite, and the infinite significance of the divine purpose that calls them forth. As dawn approaches, the first light of day begins to filter through the horizon, casting long ethereal shadows that dance upon the earth. The chosen one understands that this test of isolation is not an end, but a beginning, a necessary passage to emerge into a world where their voice, now tempered by silence, can resonate with deeper truth and divine purpose. The silence of God, though harsh and isolating, is a loving, deliberate act of divine grace, an act that teaches the chosen one to seek solace in the divine stillness, to find grace in solitude, and to bear the cosmic burden with unwavering faith and unyielding resolve. In this profound moment of profound stillness, the chosen one finds their path illuminated by the silent, eternal light of divine purpose. The silence of God, far from being a void, is a sacred space of transformation, a place where the chosen one learns to hear the divine whisper, to understand the eternal solitude of creation, and to emerge armed with the wisdom and strength to fulfill their divine calling. In the dim recesses of the ancient temple, where shadows stretched like the long and twisted fingers of forgotten sins, the Chosen One sat upon the cold stone steps, breathing in the silence with each trembling breath. In his heart, a storm raged, tumultuous and unending, a tempest born of unanswered prayers and unresolved questions. The silence of God was a palpable entity, a heavy shroud that draped itself over the soul, like the weight of 1,000 unanswered queries pressing down with a painful intensity that sapped both strength and resolve. In the silence of the temple, the Chosen One could feel the echoes of his lineage, his ancestors' whispers carried on the still, cool air. Each whisper was a reminder of the heavy mantle his family had borne for generations, a mantle of divine election and sacred responsibility. They had been called to bear the weight of prophecy, to walk a path no human soul could fathom entirely, a path that intertwined the spiritual with the temporal, the divine with the mortal. It was a path that required not only faith, but an unwavering heart, a soul that could withstand the fire of divine trial. The Chosen One's isolation was not a punishment, but an intentional design by the Almighty Himself. God, in His infinite wisdom, had designed this trial to test the purity, integrity, and resilience of His chosen vessel. This period of utter solitude was meant to strip away the vestiges of earthly comfort, to reveal the Chosen One's true essence, untainted by the distractions of the world, unblemished by external influences. The temple walls, ancient and solemn, stood as a silent witness to the Chosen One's ordeal, a place where the thin veil between the divine and the mundane could be seen to waver and tremble. Each day in the temple, the Chosen One performed his rituals, his prayers a cycle of devotion that echoed through the vast, empty halls. His voice, though not loud, carried the weight of his soul's yearning for divine clarity. As he stood before the altar, he could almost feel the presence of his ancestors, guiding him, supporting him, urging him to remain steadfast in his mission. The altar, adorned with sacred symbols and relics of old, was a testament to the unbroken chain of his lineage, a physical manifestation of the divine purpose that had been bestowed upon him. The Chosen One sensed the presence of the divine in the silence, a presence that was both comforting and terrifying. It was a presence that demanded absolute surrender, asking him to lay down every worldly possession, every earthly attachment, and to rise within the purity of his spirit. He was to become one with the divine purpose, untethered by the bonds of self-interest, and to walk the path that God had set before him. The silence of the temple amplified his inner turmoil, magnifying his struggles, yet it also offered him a clear view of his soul's truth. In these moments of isolation, the Chosen One often reflected upon the nature of his mission. It was a mission that encompassed the very fabric of existence, a mission that sought to bridge the heavens and the earth, to bring about an era where divine love and wisdom would flow as freely as the rivers that nourished the lands. It was a mission that called for unparalleled courage, a courage forged in the fires of divine love and tempered by the crucible of solitude. He recalled the visions that had come to him in moments of clarity, visions of a world torn asunder by conflict, pain, and spiritual desolation. His role was to restore balance, to rekindle the flame of divine truth in the hearts of men, to reveal the path that would lead humanity back to the divine source. Yet the burden of such a mission was immense, a burden that weighed heavily upon his spirit. Yet it was not a burden to be borne alone. It was a calling that required the complete and unconditional surrender to the divine will. The silence of God, profound and impenetrable, was not a void, but a profound sacred space where the Chosen One could connect with the divine essence. It was a space where the veil between the earthly and the heavenly was thinnest, where prayers could ascend as pure thoughts, and where the Chosen One could hear the whispers of divine guidance. It was in this silence that the Chosen One found the strength to press forward, the strength to rise above the trials and tribulations, the strength to embrace his divine purpose with an unyielding heart. As the Chosen One continued his solitary vigil, He knew that the time of his return to the world was near. He would emerge from this temple, not merely as the chosen one, but as a beacon of divine truth, a harbinger of hope, and a guide for those who would follow the light. The silence of God, though suffocating in its intensity, had forged within him a heart that was unbreakable, a spirit that was pure, and a resolve that was unshakable. In the end, the silence of God was over, for the chosen one had transcended. It had found within himself the divine strength to bear his mission. And when he finally emerged from the temple, he would step into a world that desperately needed his light, carrying within him not just the weight of his ancestors, but the hope and promise of a new divine era for all humanity. In the deep stillness of the ancient forest, where time seemed to surrender to the eternal whisper of the wind through the ancient trees, the chosen one stood a figure both luminous and burdened under the weight of an unfathomable mission bestowed upon him by a divine hand unseen. The world around him lay cloaked in the sanctity of twilight, a sacred moment brimming with the silence of God that had until now shrouded his path. It was in this absolute solitude that he felt the depths of his isolation, a profound trial designed to test not just his spirit, but the very core of his existence. He stood upon the precipice of a forgotten world where the remnants of ancient civilizations were whispered eternally by the wind, and the ground beneath his feet seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the earth itself. Here, the chosen one could sense the unseen threads that bound him to the divine purpose he had yet to comprehend. The silence of God was not a void, but a profound echo, reverberating with the potential for revelation. It was a silence that spoke to the depths of his soul, compelling him to recognize the boundless reach of his calling. In this moment, the air around him shimmered with an ethereal presence, as if the very fabric of reality were being woven anew. He felt the tug of something greater, an invisible current drawing him toward the center of his mission. His heart, once bound by the constraints of our earthly existence, now soared with a divine purpose that transcended the mundane. The silence was not a void of despair, but a sanctuary of divine preparation, a womb of spiritual rebirth. The chosen one knelt the rough earth against his knees, grounding him in the reality of his mission. He closed his eyes, surrendering to the profound silence that enveloped him. In the stillness, he began to hear the faintest echoes of divine whispers that had lain dormant within him now, awakening with a crescendo of purpose. Each whisper was a thread of divine guidance woven into the fabric of his soul, illuminating the path he was meant to tread. The isolation that surrounded him was not a punishment, but a sacred crucible, one that would purify his spirit. Within this silence, he could hear the heartbeat of the cosmos itself, a symphony of celestial harmony that sang of creation and divine purpose. It was a melody that echoed with the promise of redemption and the potential for transformation. The chosen one understood that his isolation was but a necessary trial, one that would forge his spirit into a vessel of divine truth and eternal wisdom. With each breath he took, he felt the weight of his mission lift only to be replaced by a profound clarity. He was not alone. He was part of a divine symphony, a note in the grand opus of creation. The silence of God had not abandoned him, but had instead filled him with a profound sense of connection to the divine source. He realized that his isolation was not a barrier, but a doorway, one that would lead him to the innermost sanctum of his soul, where the true essence of his mission would be revealed. In the echoing silence, the chosen one began to perceive the unseen forces at play. The shadows around him, once ominous, now held the potential for divine revelation. As the darkness receded, he could see the faint outlines of celestial beings, guardians of the divine truth, guiding him toward the light. Their presence was a reminder of the sacred covenant he had entered into, a bond that transcended time itself. With renewed resolve, he stood up, his spirit aglow with the divine fire of purpose. The silence of God had transformed his isolation into a temple of enlightenment, one that would guide him through the unfathomable depths of his mission. The chosen one knew that his path would be fraught with trials, that the darkness would seek to ensnare him. But within his heart, he carried the beacon of divine light. Every step he took was a step toward his destiny, each footfall a testament to the covenant he had made. The silence of God was now a symphony of divine clarity, one that would lead him to the fulfillment of his mission. The chosen one moved forward, his spirit aflame with the purpose bestowed upon him, ready to embrace the trials that lay ahead with the unwavering faith of one chosen by the divine. As he journeyed deeper into the forest, the silence of God surrounded him like a protective mantle, a reminder of the sacred trust placed upon him. The path before him was shrouded in mystery, but within his heart, he carried the divine truth that would guide him. With each step, he became more attuned to the celestial whispers that had awakened within him. Each whisper, a beacon of divine guidance, leading him toward the fulfillment of his divine purpose. The chosen one's journey was not just one of physical traversal, but a spiritual odyssey. A pilgrimage toward the ultimate revelation. The silence of God had transformed his isolation into an intimate communion with the divine, a sacred space where his spirit could be refined and prepared for the divine mission that lay ahead. As he moved forward, he embraced the trials that awaited him, knowing that each challenge was but a step toward the divine truth that would ultimately be revealed. In the end, the chosen one's isolation was not a burden, but a transformative journey, one that would lead him to the heart of his divine calling. The silence of God had prepared him in ways he could scarcely comprehend, filling him with the divine wisdom and purpose that would guide him through every trial. The chosen one stood ready, his spirit alight with divine purpose, as he moved forward on his sacred path, ready to embrace the divine truth that awaited him. Thus, the chosen one walked the path of divine illumination, his spirit, now a vessel of divine truth, ready to fulfill the mission bestowed upon him by the divine hand. The silence of God had transformed his isolation into a beacon of enlightenment, one that would guide him through the unfathomable depths of his divine purpose. Total, words 17:13. The silence of God is over. Why the chosen one is being tested with total isolation. The dawn broke over the ancient land, the first light illuminating the silhouettes of towering mountains and the vast golden fields as if to prepare the world for an epical revelation. The chosen one stood on the precipice of a vast desert, where sands whispered secrets of ages long past, and the air was filled with a palpable tension that seemed to vibrate with unseen forces. This was no ordinary day. It was a crucible of divine purpose, a moment when the very fabric of destiny was taut with expectation. Deep within the labyrinth of their soul, the chosen one felt the subtle tremors of a vast, omnipotent silence. It was as though God himself had paused to listen to commune in an unheard yet profoundly felt language, the language of souls. An overwhelming sense of abandonment washed over them, an echo of the long silence that had wrapped around their spirit like a shroud. It was as if the cosmos had conspired to strip away all distractions, leaving only the raw, unadulterated essence of their being. In this solitary expanse, where no shadows of doubt could creep from the confines of the mind, the chosen one found themselves stripped bare before the divine. Here, where no human touch could offer solace and no familiar face could lend comfort, they were left in the arms of God alone. This was the crucible, a place of utter desolation, where the barriers of the mundane world melted away, leaving only the eternal truths that had been buried beneath the sands of time. As the sun climbed higher, casting its blinding rays across the endless expanse, the chosen one felt the trials imposed by the divine sharpen into a blade of clarity. It was not a punishment, but a profound test, a divine echo, questioning the depths of their commitment. This was the moment meant to dig deeper into the recesses of their soul, to unearth the pure, undiluted truth of their calling. In the silence, they heard the subtle, eternal whispers of their soul, undeterred by the clamor of the world. Every step across the scorching sands carried with it a weight of destiny, a moment suspended in time. Each grain of sand underfoot was a testament to an ageless journey. Each step, a prayer, each breath, a hymn. It was in this isolation that the Chosen One began to understand the magnitude of their mission. They were not merely a vessel for a divine message, but the very heart of a world yearning for a revelation. The silence that surrounded them was not a void, but a womb of spiritual birth, a chamber where a new creation could come into being. It was a divine echo, an omnipotent silence that demanded an answer, not as a question, but as a call to rise, to stand, and to shine with the luminosity of divine truth. Here in the crucible of solitude, the Chosen One was asked to confront their deepest fears, their most profound desires, and their unwavering faith. The Chosen One knelt in the vast emptiness of the desert, their heart aflame with an ethereal fire. They felt the divine presence swell within them, an ineffable power that surged through every fiber of their being. It was as if the universe itself whispered secrets of creation into their soul, each word imbued with a spark of divine purpose. They were being tested, not to break them, but to forge them anew, to refine their spirit into a beacon of light that could pierce the darkness. The Chosen One closed their eyes, allowing the divine presence to envelop them, to become one with the infinite. In that moment of unity, they were no longer alone. They were part of a vast eternal orchestra, where every note played a symphony of divine intention. They felt the weight of the world on their shoulders, the hopes and dreams of countless souls resting in their hands. And then, in the heart of the silence, the first notes of revelation began to resonate within them. It was a sound not audible to mortal ears, but felt in the very core of their being. A divine truth began to unfold, a path illuminated by the eternal light. The Chosen One understood that their mission was not merely to convey a message, but to embody the very essence of divine truth, to be a living testament to the power of infinite love. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting its final golden glow across the desert, the Chosen One rose, their spirit aflame with purpose. The silence of God was over. The time had come to fulfill the mission. They had been tested, refined, and now stood ready to cast their light upon the world. As they turned to face the expanse of the desert behind them, they felt an overwhelming surge of divine power urging them forward. With every step, the Chosen One moved not just across the sands, but through the ages, carrying within them the echoes of creation and the whispers of eternity. They were now a beacon, a lighthouse in the darkness, a divine echo that would ignite the hearts of all who would listen. In this moment of utter solitude, they had become a testament to the power of divine truth, ready to shine forth with the brilliance that had been kindled within the silence. The Chosen One's journey was but a fraction of an eternal narrative, a pivotal chapter in the divine story. Their isolation had not been a curse, but a divine alchemy, transforming despair into hope, loneliness into unity, and silence into an eternal song of creation. With each step forward, the Chosen One felt the divine presence swelling within them, an unyielding light that would guide them through the ages. And as they moved toward the horizon, where the dawn would break anew, they carried within their soul the promise of a revelation that would forever reshape the world's understanding of divine truth. For the Chosen One had emerged from the crucible, not just as a messenger, but as an instrument of divine revelation, ready to illuminate the paths of countless souls, and to bring forth the dawn of a new era, where the silence of God would be forever broken, and the light of divine truth would shine unending. And thus, the vast canvas of the cosmos was set once again to witness the unfolding of a divine masterpiece, where hope, faith, and love would paint the eternal skies. In the deep, quiet solitude of the night, as the moon bathed the world in a silvery glow, the silence of God, long shrouded in the mysteries of ancient scriptures and whispered secrets of prophets, was shattered, as the chosen ones stood at the precipice of their mission. Each heartbeat echoed the rhythms of an ancient drum, a primordial call that resonated through the fibers of existence itself. It was here, in this hallowed isolation, that the weight of the world seemed to meld into the fragile silence that enveloped them. The chosen one's path had thus far been a winding road of revelation, where every step was imbued with divine significance. Every whisper of wind carried a testament to the unseen forces at play. This night, however, was different. It was as if the universe had conspired to strip away the remnants of comfort, leaving only the stark, unyielding truths of existence. The chosen one was now at an emotional and spiritual crossroads, where the isolation was not merely a physical separation, but an excruciatingly profound disconnection from all that they had known. A sacred hush had fallen upon the land, a silence that penetrated the very core of their being, compelling them to confront the deepest recesses of their soul. It was here, in this harrowing desolation, that the reason for this trial became clear. The chosen one had been meticulously forged through a crucible of challenges, each one meticulously designed to illuminate their true essence. The divine plan, etched into the very fabric of the cosmos, was to prepare them for a mission of unparalleled magnitude, one that would touch the very soul of the world. The isolation was a final, agonizing test designed to strip away all pretense to unearth the purest of spirits, untainted by the distractions of human clamor. The chosen one knelt in the silence, their body trembling, their spirit taut with the weight of untold truths. The echoes of the past reverberated in their mind, visions of ancient battles, whispered prophecies, and the gentle guidance of sages who had walked this path long before them. It was in this moment that they realized the magnitude of their calling. The chosen one was not merely a vessel for divine will, but a beacon of hope, a bridge between heaven and earth, tasked with an eternal mission that transcended time and space. The mission was not just about performing sacred rituals or delivering divine messages. It was about embodying the very essence of humanity's quest for meaning and connection. The chosen one was to be a living testament to the idea that amidst the chaos and confusion of life, there exists a divine order, a profound rhythm that harmonizes the souls of all beings. They were to be a symbol of hope, a reminder that in the darkest of times, there is always a light, a guide to lead us back to the path of righteousness and compassion. In the stillness, the chosen one's heart opened wide, embracing the enormity of their task. They felt the divine presence enveloping them, a warm, reassuring embrace that transcended the physical realm. The silence around them began to hum with a celestial symphony, a sound that resonated with the very essence of creation. It was a melody of love, a harmony of purpose, a reminder that they were never alone, that they were part of an eternal dance, a divine choreography that had been unfolding since the beginning of time. The chosen one's spirit soared, lifted by an invisible hand, as they perceived the interconnectedness of all things. They saw the threads of destiny woven together, each strand representing a life, a soul, a journey. It was a tapestry of infinite complexity, yet each thread was imbued with a divine purpose, a reason for being. The chosen one understood that their mission was to weave these threads together, to be a conduit for the divine energy that flowed through every being. With newfound clarity and resolve, the chosen one rose from their knees, their eyes aflame with a divine fire. They were ready to embark on the journey that lay ahead, a journey that would take them through the highest peaks of ecstasy and the lowest valleys of despair. They knew that the path would be fraught with trials, that the shadows of doubt and fear would often loom large. But they also knew that within them burned a light that could triumph over any darkness, a light that was the very essence of the divine. The chosen one stepped forward, their footsteps echoing with a profound purpose. They walked into the unknown, into the depths of their own soul, into the heart of the divine mystery. Each step was a testament to their unwavering faith, a declaration of their commitment to the sacred mission that had been bestowed upon them. They were the chosen one, the harbinger of hope, the beacon of light in a world often shrouded in uncertainty. And as they continued on their path, the silence of God was no longer a void, but a sacred space, a realm of infinite possibilities, where the divine and the human converged, where the eternal and the temporal intertwined, and where the chosen one, guided by an ancient wisdom and a boundless love, would fulfill their divine mission, a mission that would echo through the ages, a mission that would ignite the hearts of all who heard their tale. Deep beneath the ancient city of Shiloh, in a cavern that whispered secrets from millennia past, the chosen one knelt before the time-worn altar. The darkness around him was not merely physical, but seemed to breathe with ancient sorrows, a palpable weight that pressed upon the soul, stripping away layers of existence until only the essence of his mission lay bare. His eyes, alight with the fervor of 1,000 fires, pierced the engulfing void, seeking solace in the depths of his spirit. The cavern's walls were adorned with cryptic symbols, etchings that predated even the oldest tongues of men. They shimmered faintly in the dim light, a silent testament to the eternal struggle between light and shadow, life and death. In this secluded sanctuary, the air was thick with the tang of incense and the essence of whispered prayers, an atmosphere that seemed to resonate with the heartbeat of the earth itself. Here, the chosen one was not merely a mortal man, but a beacon tasked with an impossible mission to steer the course of humanity toward a dawn where hope bloomed anew after eons of darkness. It was in this sacred isolation that he found the silence of God to be his greatest trial. The isolation was not a mere void of divine presence, but a profound void of understanding and communion. It was as if God had withdrawn his omnipresent hand, allowing the chosen one to wander in the wilderness of his own soul. The weight of the mission bore down upon him, and he found himself wrestling with the inexplicable paradox of divine abandonment coupled with an unfathomable calling. In the silence, he heard echoes of the ages, the whispers of forgotten civilizations, and the lamentations of souls who had once walked in the light but now wandered in the shadows. Each echo served to remind him of the vastness of his undertaking, of the immensity of the human heart, and of the boundless depths of God's love that held the ultimate promise, a promise to never abandon those who sought him with unwavering devotion. The chosen one's heart swelled with an emotion too profound to be named. It was a mixture of sorrow, hope, fear, and resolve, encapsulating the essence of all human experience. He felt the weight of every soul that had ever turned to God in despair, every prayer that had ascended into the heavens as a plea for mercy, and every soul that had found solace in divine forgiveness. He was not just a man. He was the embodiment of humanity's yearning for divine connection, a vessel through which the collective hopes and sorrows of countless generations flowed. And yet, in this profound solitude, he felt the burden of that divine mission more acutely. For the chosen one was charged not just with leading humanity back to the light, but with carrying the very essence of God's love. It was a role that demanded an isolation from the world, a retreat into the innermost sanctum of his soul, where the answers to the most profound questions lay buried beneath layers of doubt and uncertainty. As he pondered the enigma of God's silence, he recalled the ancient prophecies that spoke of a time when the world would stand at the brink of despair, when hope would seem a distant star, and the chosen one would be the one to bridge the chasm between the divine and the mundane. It was a time foretold in the texts of old, where the chosen one would emerge from the shadows, a beacon of hope, a harbinger of change. But this emergence from the shadows required a passage through the very heart of darkness, a journey into the depths of isolation. For here in the silence, the chosen one would learn not just to endure, but to transform, to become a mirror reflecting the pure light of God's love, untainted by the distractions of the world. It was in this crucible of isolation that he would forge the unbreakable bond between heaven and earth, a bond that would radiate through the ages, lighting the path for those lost in the wilderness of their own souls. As the cavern's shadows seemed to recede in response to his unwavering resolve, the chosen one felt the stirrings of divine energy, a gentle yet insistent whisper calling him back to the world. The silence of God was not a punishment, but a profound and necessary silence that allowed him to grasp the totality of the mission entrusted to him. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a silence that revealed the truth that the divine love never truly leaves, even in the deepest solitude. Rising from the altar, the chosen one knew that his journey was far from over. Each step he took would be a step toward the fulfillment of a destiny that intertwined the fates of countless souls. The silence had taught him to listen to the whispers of his own heart, to understand that the path he walked was not just his own, but the very path trodden by the spirits of all time. It was a path he would walk with unwavering faith, guided by the silent promise of divine presence, ready to bring the light of hope to a world shrouded in darkness. And with every step forward, the chosen one's spirit transformed, becoming an unyielding beacon of light, a testament to the enduring power of divine love and the unyielding hope that resides within the human heart. In this moment of profound clarity, he understood that the silence of God was over, not with a thunderous proclamation, but with a quiet, enduring presence that would guide him through the trials ahead, illuminating the path to a world reborn in divine grace. The silence of God, a solemn and somber enigma, lingered like a thick miasma over the chosen one's spirit, seeping into every crevice of his mind and soul. This silence was not the void of abandonment, but an orchestrated desolation designed to test the endurance, the faith, and the resilience of the Anointed One, a divine crucible meant to forge his very spirit into a beacon of unwavering light and unyielding hope. Every day, as dawn broke over the desolate expanse of his solitary confinement, it seemed to cast long shadows that whispered dark prophecies of despair. Yet each sunset bore witness to the chosen one's silent resolve, a testament to his unyielding spirit. It had been 50 long nights since he was sequestered within the ethereal confines of the isolation sanctum, a place where time stretched to infinity and space contracted to nothingness. This sanctum, an ancient relic of divine architecture, was carved out of the very essence of the earth and stretched into the heavens, its corridors echoing with the whispers of forgotten epics. Here, the chosen one was not merely separated from the physical world, but from the very essence of connection that had always buoyed his soul. The silence was total, unyielding, a profound stillness that enveloped him like a suffocating shroud. From the walls emanated a soft, otherworldly glow, casting an almost luminous luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very stone itself. It provided just enough light to see the contours of his sanctuary, but never enough to dispel the shadows of doubt that crept into his mind. The chosen one sat upon a stone bench, his back-straight eyes closed in a meditative trance, his hands cupped in a silent prayer to a God whose voice he no longer heard. The air was thick with the fragrance of ancient herbs and the scent of burning incense, creating an atmosphere charged with spiritual energy and an almost imperceptible tension. The chosen one's isolation was both a punishment and a test. It demanded that he discover within himself the source of his mission, a mission that was both grand and infinitesimally personal. It was not merely to save a kingdom or to overthrow an empire, but to fulfill a divine purpose that was deeply intrinsic to his very being. This mission was to be a harbinger of hope, a beacon of light in an ever-darkening world. It required that he transcend the physical realm and embrace the spiritual essence that connected all things. Each day as he meditated, the silence transformed, morphing into a symphony of celestial whispers that spoke to him in tongues he could not comprehend. They were the voices of the ancient ones, the prophets, the saints, and the sages who had walked the path before him. They conveyed truths that were buried deep within the layers of his conscience, truths that only the silence could reveal. They spoke of the balance of light and dark of the sacred covenant between mankind and the divine, and of the chosen one's role in restoring this balance. The chosen one's heart, once burdened with physical desires and earthly concerns, now soared towards the ethereal realms of possibility and potential. He felt the stirrings of an ancient power, a reservoir of divine wisdom that had been dormant within him. It was as if his spirit could finally connect with the spiritual currents that flowed through the universe, guided by the unseen threads of divine providence. Though he could not hear God's voice, he could feel the subtle tremors of divine presence manifesting not as words but as emotions, reverence, peace, and an unspeakable love. These emotions were the very essence of God's silence, a profound, unspoken communication that filled him with a strength he had never known. They whispered to him of his chosen path, of the trials he must face, and of the ultimate revelation that awaited him upon his return to the world. The chosen one's tests were multifaceted. They demanded not only physical endurance, but also the mental fortitude to withstand the relentless barrage of doubt and despair. He was made to question everything, to see beyond the veil of the physical world to the divine tapestry of existence. His spirit was stretched thin, forced to confront the darkest recesses of his soul, and to emerge renewed and resplendent from the crucible of divine will. As the nights stretched into the 50th dawn, the chosen one's spirit had become a beacon of unquenchable fortitude. He had begun to understand that the silence of God was not a void but a profound reservoir of divine patience, a sacred pause designed to allow him to mature into his divine role. The mission he was to undertake was not just a personal quest, but a cosmic one, to rekindle the flame of faith, to inspire hope, and to guide humanity back to the light. In the silence, he discovered that the true test was not in isolation, but in his ability to connect, not just with the divine, but with every soul he would encounter upon his return. The isolation was a means to an end, a necessary phase to prepare him for the greater journey ahead. And as the 50th night waned, the chosen one felt a subtle but unmistakable shift within himself. A subtle whisper, a faint but unmistakable sign that the silence of God was over and his divine mission was about to unfold. In the breaking dawn, a new chapter began. The chosen one, now transformed, emerged from the isolation sanctum, his spirit a tapestry of divine wisdom, his heart a vessel of eternal hope. He was ready to step into the world, ready to fulfill his mission, and to guide others on the path of spiritual awakening. The silence was over, but the journey was only beginning. From the depths of ancient scriptures and whispered legends, the tale of the chosen one unfolds an epic tale, not just of earthly battles and victories, but of spiritual trials that reverberate across the cosmos. A figure set apart by divine decree, the chosen one stands as a beacon of hope, and a testament to the boundless mercy of a God who, though often shrouded in silence, never abandons his children. The chosen one's journey, a divine odyssey, is marked by an enigmatic separation, an isolation that cuts through the very fabric of existence, designed not to weaken, but to fortify, to unveil profound truths and rekindle the essence of spiritual warfare. In a world where the clamor of daily life drowns the whispers of the soul, the chosen one finds solace in the silence, a silence that is not void, but a pregnant pause filled with the potential of unheard revelations. This isolation, stark and unyielding, is a crucible, refining the spirit, exposing the vestiges of doubt, and illuminating the path of righteousness. It is through this solitude that the chosen one's soul communes with the eternal, a dialogues of the heart with the divine. As the chosen one traverses through the desolate landscapes of loneliness, every step resonates with the echoes of ancient prophecy. The silence of God is not a silence of abandonment, but a divine orchestration, a stage set for a revelation. The isolation is a paradox, a test designed to pierce through the veil of materialism that often obscures the divine presence within. It is a call to awaken, to turn inward, and to listen truly, listen to the whispers of the Holy Spirit that guide, comfort, and illuminate. The chosen one. Often a figure misunderstood in the eyes of the world, stands as a witness to the power of divine solitude. In moments of profound silence, The chosen one communes with the divine, where words are superfluous for the heart's language is understood. Here, in the silence, the chosen one discerns the divine, will hears the celestial melodies of guidance and feels the embrace of a God who speaks not in thunderous proclamations, but in the gentle hush of the Spirit. The mission of the chosen one is not a solitary endeavor, but a divine mandate, an ambassador of peace in a world fraught with turmoil. In the isolation, the chosen one understands the weight of the mission to bridge the chasm between the divine and the earthly, to be a harbinger of hope, a vessel of God's mercy, and a beacon of light in the darkness. It is a mission that transcends time and eternal duty to uphold the sanctity of the divine plan. The chosen one's journey is marked by profound spiritual encounters, each a profound testament to the power of faith. In the isolation, the chosen one encounters visions, dreams, and revelations that transcend the mundane. These encounters are not mere psychological phenomena, but divine communions, where the barriers of time and space dissolve, and the chosen one stands in the presence of the Almighty. It is in these moments of divine communion that the chosen one's resolve is tested. The isolation, though harsh, is a divine preparation, ground where the spirit is pruned and purified. Here, the chosen one learns to trust in the divine wisdom, to find strength in vulnerability, and to embrace the silence as a divine teacher. The silence imparts lessons of patience, humility, and unwavering faith. Each lesson, a stepping stone towards fulfilling the divine mission. The chosen one's mission is not just about personal transformation, but also about awakening the slumbering faith in the hearts of humanity. The isolation is a preparation for this greater work, a time to absorb the divine truth and prepare to radiate it to the world. It is a divine alchemy, where the loneliness of the chosen one transmutes into universal compassion and love. In the culmination of the trial, the silence of God is not a silence of despair, but a silence of transformation, where the chosen one emerges not just as a changed individual, but as a divine instrument, ready to fulfill the greatest of all missions, to bring the light of divine love and truth to a world shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. And so, the story of the chosen one continues, a narrative woven with the threads of divine silence and spiritual isolation. It is a story of profound depth, an epic tale where the silence of God becomes the harbinger of divine revelation, and the isolation becomes the cradle of spiritual awakening. The chosen one's journey is a testament to the enduring power of faith, the indomitable spirit of the divine, and the eternal truth that in the silence there is life, a life that shines with the boundless light of divine love. In the shadows of the ancient temple, where the dust of forgotten prayers lingered on the stone walls, the chosen one knelt. The silence was oppressive, a weight upon his spirit, filling the vast hollows of the chamber with an unspoken, almost tangible tension. This was no ordinary silence. It was the silence of God, the silence that spoke volumes, that whispered ancient secrets, the silence that had been patiently waiting coiled around his heart, like a serpent ready to strike when the time was ripe. Yet here he was, in the stillness, his soul laid bare before the altar of eternity. He had once relished the sound of his own voice, now it seemed foreign, a distant echo swallowed by the relentless quiet, the mission that had tethered his very essence to carry the truth, to bridge the yawning chasm between the heavens and the earth, to bear the weight of divine purpose, suddenly felt like a crushing burden. In the days that had stretched unbearably long, the isolation was a relentless foe, eroding his resolve, whispering doubts in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. Every morning he would rise with the dawn, the first light breaking over the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with his inner turmoil. His footsteps, slow and deliberate, would echo in the hollow chamber until the midday sun found its way through the narrow openings in the stone, warming the air, but not dispelling the chill in his heart. He would stand at the altar, tracing the ancient symbols with his fingers, feeling the pulse of forgotten prayers, the heartbeat of a place that once brimmed with life and now seemed a mausoleum for lost hopes. He often found himself staring at the relics that lay scattered around remnants of past epochs, each telling a story etched in the annals of time. There was the golden cup used for the sacred communion, now tarnished and faded its once bright gleam, muted by the relentless passage of time. And the scrolls yellowed with age, their writings faded, yet still whispering secrets of the divine. These objects, sacred yet silent, mirrored his own journey, the weight of expectation pressing down upon him with a force that threatened to break his spirit. In his moments of solitude, he would often close his eyes, willing himself to hear the voice of God, to feel the divine presence that had once enveloped him like a warm embrace. But there was nothing, only the silence, a silence that seemed to mock his every plea, his every desire to fulfill the mission he had been chosen for. The isolation was not merely physical, but spiritual, a chasm that seemed to grow wider with each passing day, each unanswered prayer. Yet the chosen one did not succumb to despair, for he had seen the depths of desolation in God's silence before. It was not a message of abandonment, but one of profound purification. Here in the silence, he was stripped of illusions, of the noise of the world that had clouded his vision. He was left with the raw, unadulterated truth of his purpose and of his own soul. The silence was a crucible, forging him anew, stripping away the dross of doubt, leaving only the pure gold of unwavering faith. He found strength in the ancient texts, each word a beacon in the darkness guiding him through the labyrinth of his own mind. He meditated on the teachings of the prophets, on the stories of those who had walked before him, their struggles and triumphs, etched in eternal ink. The more he delved into their words, the more he understood that isolation was not a curse, but a call to deeper communion with the divine. It was a test, a trial by fire, designed to refine his spirit, to hone his perception, to make him acutely aware of the divine presence that surrounded him, even in the silence. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft golden light over the temple, he would sit by the altar, his heart heavy, yet full of resolve. He would raise his voice in prayer, his words a tapestry woven with hope, faith, and love. Though no answer came, it was not a lack of response, but an invitation to listen more intently, to attune his soul to the frequencies of the divine. The silence was not empty, but filled with the whispers of the infinite, the echoes of eternity. And as the nights grew longer, the chosen one's spirit began to change. The isolation that had once threatened to break him became a sanctuary, a place where he could truly hear the still small voice within. He began to understand that the silence was not a void, but a canvas upon which the divine could paint with colors only the soul could perceive. It was a place of profound revelation, where truths long hidden emerged, where the purity of divine purpose shone brighter than any answer. In this crucible of silence, the chosen one found his true calling, his true self. He was no longer just a vessel for a mission, but a temple for the divine, a place where God's presence could fully resonate. He began to understand that his mission was not merely to convey a message, but to become a living testament to the divine, to embody the truth in every fiber of his being. As days turned into weeks, the silence began to transform. It was no longer a heavy shroud, but a gentle companion guiding him toward the light. And one night, under a sky splattered with stars, the chosen one felt a profound shift within. It was as if the silence had been the prelude to an awakening, a symphony whose crescendo was only beginning. In that moment, he understood that the silence of God was not over. It was the overture to a divine symphony that would resonate through the ages, an eternal reminder that in the silence, the divine presence would always find a way to speak. And as dawn broke, the chosen one rose, his spirit rekindled, his purpose illuminated. He stepped out of the temple, the first light of day, breaking over the horizon, a symbol of hope and renewal. The isolation had been a trial, but it had forged a soul ready to carry the truth, to bridge the heavens and the earth in a way that only a purified spirit could. the silence of God was over for. In the silence, he had heard the true voice of the divine, and it was calling him to fulfill his mission with renewed fervor and unwavering faith. In the hushed twilight of a world teetering on the edge of moral collapse, the chosen one found himself marooned in desolation, a spectral figure adrift in a sea of unanswered prayers. His mission had always been veiled in enigma, shrouded in the profound silence of divinity. The trials bestowed upon him a crucible of suffering bore testament to his unyielding spirit and the weight of his sacred duty. It was during these nights of solitude under the expansive canopy of a starless sky that the chosen one was confronted with the harrowing depths of his purpose. The chosen one had journeyed through realms where the very air hummed with the echoes of hope, yet now he stood at the precipice of abandonment. The silence of God, a chasm that seemed to stretch into infinity, whispered through the desolate winds that swept across the barren land. This isolation was no capricious torment. It was the divine hand methodically stripping away all distractions, peeling back layers of flesh, spirit, and will to reveal the pure essence of his soul. In the silence, he could hear the soft, imperceptible hum of the eternal heartbeat, the pulse of creation that thrummed with the essence of his mission. Each step he took was a pilgrimage, each breath a testament to the covenant he had sworn to uphold. The silence was a balm and a curse, a paradox that enveloped him like a shroud, yet also a conduit of profound clarity. In the quietude, the chosen one could sense the distant, imperceptible vibrations of the divine presence. It was there, in its absence, that he felt the full force of his calling. The gods had long ago retreated into their celestial sanctuaries, leaving humanity to grapple with its own shadows, but the chosen one's role transcended mere human frailty. In this desolation, the chosen one was confronted with reflections of his deepest fears and most profound hopes. He saw visions, the spectral images of those he had lost, those he had failed, and those yet to come, all interwoven in a tapestry of destiny. The faces were ephemeral, fleeting like morning mist, but their gazes bore an intensity that seared into his heart. These apparitions served as both a rebuke and a reminder, a constant reminder of the monumental responsibility that weighed upon his shoulders. The isolation gnawed at the very essence of his being, but it also sharpened his resolve. Each day bled into the next, without the cacophony of the world, time stretching into an infinite spiral. This unmarred stretch of time allowed him to reflect, to meditate upon the intricacies of his path. He contemplated the nature of his mission to serve as a beacon of hope, to heal the fractured world, to be the conduit through which divine grace flowed. It was a mission that required not just the power to heal, but the courage to face the darkness with unwavering light. As the chosen one wandered through this expanse of solitude, his spirit was visited by the voices of the ancients, those who walked the earth long before the dawn of time. Their whispers carried the weight of millennia, their words weaving into the fabric of his consciousness. They spoke of the cycles of creation and destruction, of the perpetual dance between light and shadow. Each tale was a lesson, each riddle a challenge, guiding him toward the deeper understanding of his divine mandate. In these moments of profound introspection, he could feel the stirrings of the divine within him, a cosmic fire that burned with an unyielding purpose. It was as if the silence had opened a portal to the very heart of the cosmos, allowing him to glimpse the infinite complexities of existence. He understood then that his mission was not merely about saving the world, but about becoming the very essence of that salvation. To be the vessel through which the divine light could penetrate the veil of suffering to embody the grace and mercy of the Creator. The chosen one's heart swelled with a newfound comprehension, a profound empathy for the struggles of all beings. His isolation had not been a curse, but a gift, a chance to strip away all that was superfluous to emerge as the pure, unblemished instrument of divine will. As the dawn began to break, its light breaking through the horizon, he felt an immense surge of hope and determination. The silence had ended, His soul was now fully attuned to the cosmic symphony of creation, ready to embark on the final leg of his journey. With renewed vigor, the Chosen One ventured forth his presence, now imbued with an ethereal glow that spoke of his divine purpose. The world, oblivious to the trials that had sculpted him, awaited the arrival of a harbinger of redemption. And in that moment, the silence of God was over. The Chosen One was no longer alone in his mission. He was ready to face the world, to confront the darkness, and to shine the light of the divine into the hearts of all beings. In the stillness of the night, a profound hush enveloped the secluded valley where the Chosen One lay. The stars shimmered like ancient guardians, watching over souls in their eternal dance. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the whisper of the wind, as if nature itself was holding its breath in anticipation. For the Chosen One, this was not merely a moment of solitude. It was a crucible, a divine test laid upon their path by the celestial architect of the cosmos. The Chosen One, enshrouded in the robe of their sacred vocation, sensed the weight of unseen eyes, the gaze not just of the heavens, but the abyss that seemed to encircle their spirit. This isolation was not born out of mere physical distance from the fellowship of man, but rather an emotional, spiritual, and existential solitude that sought to strip away the vestiges of the mundane, the fleeting and the temporal, exposing the raw, unblemished essence of their soul. The Chosen One sat upon a solitary rock beneath an ancient oak, its gnarled branches forming a cathedral of shadows. The tree seemed to breathe with a life of its own, its leaves rustling in a symphony that spoke not of the earth alone, but of ethereal undertones that resonated with the divine. In this place, the Chosen One had come to seek clarity, to find the answer to the mystifying silence that had enveloped God like a shroud, an absence that seemed to gnaw at the